Welcome back to Duda Dojo, your source for the latest Duda news, platform how-tos, and product updates. I'm Jessica, and this week I'm joined by Haley and Alexis, two of our talented graphic designers, to show viewers the many ways to implement cool website backgrounds. So let's jump right in. Alexis and Haley, let's talk about how we create an immersive experience in the Duda system when we're designing certain sections. So I want to talk about background graphics and how those can support the message of a certain section. So I know we have images that we can do, videos, and different types of gradients with like colors, whatever falls into the client's brand. What would you say is a good way to engage the user when integrating some type of background image or graphic into a section or a content section?
Yeah, I think it depends on like the industry that they're in. I think sometimes, a video can be used like for a storytelling element or to highlight certain, graphic elements like animation wise. But I also think like an image, for example, like that could be very striking and like could like make the text really pop. Same with like a gradient. We use a lot of like overlays like with a singular color or gradients. And I think it just really enhances the overall visual experience of the user.
Yeah, I'm really glad we're mentioning gradients because a lot of people don't know what that is. So even if they're looking at a gradient, they don't understand what they're looking at necessarily. And it's one of the simplest things you can do in designing, because you've worked with quite a few now where you've implemented different like concepts behind. How do you decide what type of image or graphic, how do you decide what to choose when you're trying to support not only the brand or the story, as she mentioned, but the content that's in that section?
Yeah. And each website is different. It depends on each website style. But I really like using a section with a strong background graphic if it's to like break up the website. Like if it's too many white and gray rows, it's kind of like a way of making content pop, like making the user know that it's special compared to like the other information that could be in the other sections. So it's a really nice way to engage the user and add more visual appeal to a section.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm a big fan of the backgrounds. I think it is just having that balance between supporting that message and then having something still pretty to look at,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like you can get so creative with it. Like, I feel like even on RivalMind, like we have those like slanted, like gray elements in the background, which kind of like break up sections, like just very like subtly.
Yeah.
But then, like she said, you can also have like those like solid pops of color to really highlight certain information.
Yeah, there is definitely research out there about how the psychology of how a user engages with that page. And if you actually want them to read the content, most people they don't want to read just some long, never-ending story. They want, when you break things up visually, it helps the brain say, hey, there's something new being said here. So I know that you have a way to show us today not only how to manipulate those sections, but I think we should show off a little bit of our own work and how we've used like different options for those backgrounds. So what is it that you're going to take us into today?
Yeah, so I'm going to show you how to change imagery, video, and color of a section. So let me just navigate down to this red section here. And you can edit rows and columns the same way. So like even if you just have a column that you want to add an image or video background to, you can.
Yeah.
But for this demo, I'm going to do a row. And you can see right away when I open up the design panel, you can see background right here. And then there's 3 tabs. So it's super easy to navigate.
I love that. So right here in this is what I love about Duda. So right here in this sections area, we have all these settings, and right within there, you can access color, a video, or some type of background image. You don't have to go to all these other places to try to implement the concept. It's literally just right here.
Right. Yeah. Everything's in one place. Like I want a fun background. I don't know what I want to do yet. So like here you could experiment, like see what an image looks like, see what a video looks like, and you don't even have to leave this window. So that is something that's really cool about Duda.
Yeah.
So you can see right here, I'm in my color panel, and you can hit background color, and it'll have all your themed colors, all your saved colors. And then it also has a color wheel down here for you, or you can put in a hex code if you want to introduce like a new color or something.
Love that.
So a lot you can do just in the color panel. And then in this drop down, you'll see the option for gradient. Now, I really like how Duda does their gradients. So it's this slider right here. You can choose, we'll make this one black just so you can see it better. And then you can choose, you can swap these if you want them to be on different sides, like you put the color in the wrong place. You can change the direction you want your gradient to go. So say like, I want the text on the right to be visible, so I'm doing black. And then on the left, I want the image to be visible that's under it. So I'm doing white.
That's a good point. If we just pause here for a second. So it's super important that when you're implementing this stuff that you can still see the content. There is someone that needs to, read this. And especially in our world today with just website accessibility for people who maybe have some disabilities, you want to make it as easy as possible for everyone to be able to read through the content in these sections.
And that's a lot of reason why I use gradients is for readability purposes. Like if I want, or a client even wants an image background and they're not willing to budge, like we can throw an overlay on there so that the text is a little bit easier to read.
Putting an image just straight in the background might not always work depending on, like if it's a title, maybe, but that overlay really comes in handy when you want like visible text over it as well.
Yeah. If it's like a light image, like you could do like a pattern image. It doesn't even have to be like a realistic
like
image.
A texture.
Like
Exactly. And so like if that's light, you can have black text. If you have like a dark pattern, you can have white text, but the overlay is a great way of adapting to different images that you have.
Incredible. Yeah. Take us back in.
Okay. So, back to gradient position. There's a bunch of different things you can do with it and angles that you can go with your gradient, which is really cool. So let me go back to color. And
I know
it 0.
Yeah.
And then if I want to do an image background, I can click into images. And another thing that's great about Duda, you can upload your own images or you can search. I think Pexels is their image library. And so anything you type, you can search up. But let me just select this image to show you. Hit done. And then once you load in an image, you can see what we were talking about, how the text is super hard to read.
Great example. So we got to make adjustments.
So you have to make adjustments. Now, once you scroll down, you can adjust the way that your image looks. So you can add parallax scrolling here, which is as I scroll.
This is one of my favorite tools to use.
The image scrolls a different direction, which is really cool. You can change it to full image. So if you, for some certain cases, you want the full image to show, that's great. Tile, I never really use because I don't think it looks that great.
Agreed.
But it's cool that they offer it, right? So cover, and then down here, you'll see background overlay. So once I select this, you'll see, my text is super easy to read already. And you can adjust the opacity here and you can also change the color. Now you'll see that it's the same as the color option. You can do this drop down and you can do gradient. And so this is what I'll use a lot on top of images in order to make the text easy to read, but still showcase the image in some sense. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. Let's take a look at, I know our website as well as there's at least one other website I want to look at because it's such high design and a lot of the background videos in that were used to support the message. So take me to RivalMind and then let's look at, I know we have an element. So this is a great example here of a background graphic that has a gradient on it. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, it's nice. It's a good way because our website is so like white and this light gray. It really adds like a pop of color. And this is for a CTA. So it's trying to draw the user's attention. And I feel like it does a good job of doing that. I also like that the gradient is over like this geometric background texture.
Yeah, and you guys were talking about that earlier. You could just add a
Exactly.
texture so it's still appealing to the eye and you might want to engage with it.
Right. Like an image of our office, like stretched to like this height and width, like probably
Might not
wouldn't be
look
that
good.
fitting here. So yeah, it's a good choice of still breaking it up, but having that texture rather than a real image.
I love that. Let's talk about video. So let's flip over to Sit Front Row. So this website is a fashion website. She does personal styling, a great client of ours. And so let's talk about, in this case, there was video used here. So if we look at the video, it is someone like looking through their closet is what it looks like. And obviously this message is where she will come in and like review your closet. You can see that the video is supporting this message, but what do you guys say about this? Like, is this a preference for you? Do you have a preference for certain types of backgrounds, or how do you make those decisions as a designer of like, no, this is where we needed something moving in the background to support this message?
I feel like a lot of the time you can find like a video background in like a hero section, which is a good place for it. But I think also in a section like this where it's explaining this process and like it gives you that visual of like what that process, you know, might look like. I think that's always very engaging. And obviously we can see that this video is a little bit darker, so it probably has an overlay on it. So it's not like overshadowing the actual information on the section.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any preference, Haley?
No, I think just the fact that it's related to the content and like, also adding that like engagement and motion into the site is really cool. I love that they have like it's floating here and it really breaks up the sections and this inner row on top of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't interfere with any of the content that section's trying to say. So it adds that motion and that relevance without taking away from the content.
Yeah, I love it. And you were saying earlier, just like you're creating something that immerses the user into the section.
Yeah.
Supports it, but doesn't overwhelm it. It's not the show. Yeah. So I have one tricky question for each of you, because I know that you guys have designed different websites where you've brought in background elements and maybe the client, it was just too much for them. How do you guys, when you are putting these concepts together after an approved style tile, right? A part of our process, and maybe that concept is like, hey, we don't want that, or that's too much. How do you guys respond to that? Like, what is your take, and how do you make the so personally, how do you respond to that? Yeah. And then how do you say, okay, I'm going to figure out how to bring this back a little bit.
You want to go?
You got something. Yeah.
I have like a really recent example. So we have a new client, Baden Tax Consulting, and for their process, I had a very kind of loud, more modern contemporary design, and they liked it. I think they just like wanted to kind of, keep that same energy, but dial it back slightly. So like I had a hero section that was an entire gradient and it had like very bold text, and they liked the bold text, but they wanted to add more of a human element. So we made it, an image with that gradient overlaid on top of it. So I think just, I feel like sometimes as a designer, I can get kind of overwhelmed or like really too into like the creativeness of my process. And so sometimes it's good for a client to kind of tell you like more about themselves and how to pull it back.
Yeah. So you receive that feedback well, and you just pivot, you make adjustments.
Of course.
What about you? How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, the client's always right.
Yeah. Always?
Yeah. So the paycheck is. So. But, I think as designers, we really are like, there's so many things you can do with the website, and how can I make this look cooler? And so we're always trying to find cool background things to do. And maybe we get a little too ambitious sometimes, because a lot of our clients are like, listen, for our business, we don't need all these low opacity, weird vector things you made. We just need it to be basic. Yeah. So, it's kind of finding that balance, whereas like we are very high design oriented. So yeah.
Well, I love that. And I think that what you guys both just shared is great for other people to hear, to just learn how to not take it offensively, but still introduce some really cool features into the Duda system that enhance the message and enhance the brand.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Kudos to both of you. Great designs.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for watching this dojo. If you like this video, check out this one or subscribe to our channel.